Welcome to Cardboard Hunter. I'm Sterling, and today we're going to review one of the most sought-after grails of all time. Splotter's 1999 timeless classic, Bus, which proves you don't need flashy miniatures, endless stretch goals, or 15 expansions to make a true masterpiece. Just cardboard, a dream, and a loose grasp of time dilation. But let's first address the elephant in the room, which in this case is the actual room. So I've done quite a bit of work on building a new studio for YouTube content, and I'm very happy with how it turned out. I've got all kinds of cool things decorated around it. You know, I loved my background of board games, but I think there's something special and just a little bit more minimalistic look that gives a little bit more of a vibe of who I am as a dork versus as a board game collector. And I think my favorite piece in here is a very specific Lord of the Rings reference, and I'll let you guys try to figure that out in the comments. Also, I want to note that we have ran the bus giveaway and determined our winner. And at the end of this video, I will actually go over the results of that contest. So congrats to our winner. Feel free to jump to a timestamp if you'd like to see that right now. And I hope you enjoy the copy of Bus that I'll be mailing off as much as I do. But let's get straight into this. Bus is often referred to as the world's first worker placement game, which I don't think does the game justice, because Bus is so much more than just a worker placement game. It's a route building game where the board state constantly changes. It's an abstract strategy with endless depth of strategy. It's a simulation of capitalist greed as it pertains to ever privatization of public transportation. It's nothing at all like the Magic School Bus. Don't know why people keep saying that. And it's not even a worker placement game at all. It's an action selection game. The difference may be quite nuanced, but there is a difference. The meeple or meeples on the board actually just represent the passengers that you're picking up and delivering to their desired locations, while the action cylinders are actually the action selection tokens you'll be using in the game. Wait, hold up. Meeple would already be the plural, so does that make the singular Merson? Oh my god, I hate that. Before I get too deep into the mechanics and what makes this game so brilliant, let's have a little eye candy and compare the 1999 Splotter edition to the reprint 20th edition by Capstone Games. I recently got my hands on the original 1999 copy of Splotter's Bus, and without giving you the number, I will say it's definitely the most expensive board game I've ever purchased, or in this case, traded for. And I don't think I could ever recommend this copy to anyone unless you were just buying it as a collector's piece, which is what I've done. I have a visitor. In fact, if you do want the experience of playing on the original board, the 20th anniversary Capstone edition also includes the original board and original pieces, and it's usually cheaper to get the deluxe 20th anniversary than the actual OG copy. Now, I absolutely adore the gritty, Easter egg-filled Splotter version of the board, but I do still have to admit that the minimalistic approach that Capstone took makes for a much smoother and intuitive gaming experience. The Capstone board is beautiful with easily distinguishable parts. I do think changing the letters to numbers on the location spots was an improvement. Not that we don't all know that B comes after A, C after B, etc. The clear victory point tracker is definitely a big improvement on whatever Splotter was doing with these islands. I mean, they just look like blobs of paint were dropped there. Though I do love the little names they have on them. The actual snap-in spindle is a big improvement over the little piece of wood that you just simply move around on this really weird looking clock. The train stations or depots where meeple actually arrive are much more clear with these nice little blue spots with a train symbol versus the madness that was going on the Splotter edition. Although I do really appreciate that this one is named the 1830 station, which for anyone unfamiliar with 1830, that is arguably the most popular train board game ever made that has lent to an entire genre called 18xx games. So all in all, the new board is pretty much an improvement in every regards, except how brilliant all of these little board game references are on this board. And I haven't even figured out half of them yet. Although about half of these are in German, which my Irish heritage has not really helped out with, though I also can't speak Gaelic, so I'm not really sure where I was going with that. But let's have a little fun with some of these references. We've got the Tycho Temple over here. We have the Samurai Island, which is one of my favorite Reiner Knizia games of all time. El Caballero Island, which is a classic Wolfgang Kramer and Richard Ulrich. You've got the Formula D Zandvoort, if I'm pronouncing that even close to how it's supposed to be, which is, of course, based on the Formula D game, or Formula D, and one of the original Formula One racetracks, if I'm not mistaken, in the Netherlands. Monopoly, the Carabande Circuit, which, if you're familiar with Carabande, that was the original name for Pitch Car, which is one of the most brilliant, timeless dexterity games ever made. Six Nimmet Farms, D&D Dragon, Axis and Alloys Wreckers, which is one of my favorites. You have Die Settler von Catan, which is Settlers of Catan. And of course, my favorite reference on here, where is it at? Coffee Shop Magic, which has the Black Lotus as the illustration, which is one of the most famous cards for Magic the Gathering ever printed. I mean, this is truly a piece of board gaming history. I absolutely love this board. The routes are laid out exactly the same as the newer board, so it does not play any different, but it does like lengthen the game when you play with this one. Because what happens is, as you're playing this older board, you tend to just have these discussions about it. You have a little bit more trouble keeping track of where the routes are just because it's not as clean and cut as the newer board. So even though the board is beautiful, the newer board certainly improves the gameplay. Now, I do want to explain that this is a German-style Euro, not a modern Euro. It's not a particularly aggressive German Euro, but the reason I bring that up is because I do think you should educate yourself on the difference between German and modern Euros before you start chasing some of these pricier grails. So German Euros are more based on the traditional German Euro board games, where all board games kind of come from, which tend to involve players playing on the same board where you're kind of competing directly. There's usually a level of conflict, whether it's area control, resource control, you name it. Whereas modern Euros are more like tableau builders, where you may have an individual player board where you're building up your own resources, abilities, sets, you name it. And the goal is kind of to build your strength, not necessarily that direct confrontation. A lot of people call some modern board games multiplayer solitaire, which not all of them are like that, but certainly a good chunk of the genre is. Now, I prefer the German style Euro because it tends to be a little more social, meaning as you're on top of each other, you're discussing it more, you're actually playing with the other players at the table a lot more than those multiplayer solitary style Euros. But it really comes down to your preference and your group's preference, because the trade-off for the German Euros is, yeah, it's more social, but it's also more aggressive. Bus, not as much as a lot of other Splotter or German Euros, but this one still is pretty take that, a little punching each other in the face. I particularly like those styles of games, so that trade is fine with me, but your group may not want to make that trade. Now, if you will give me a moment, I have to wait until Letha is ready to exit the table in order to continue this video. Now let's talk about what you're actually doing in Bus, which in turn order, you're each taking one of your little cylinders and placing it on one of 7 available actions. Some actions are first come, first serve, such as increasing your bus fleet, claiming starting player for the next round, and of course, f***ing with time.
Hey man, remember me? I got something for your ass. Don't someone mess with time. You don't with time. Mother.
However, the other actions allow for multiple cylinders, so you can claim them starting from A to F. Some of these are in reverse order, as actions always execute from left to right. So for example, if this was the board state for line expansion and you claimed A, you would be placing 3 routes this turn based on the total number of buses, which I'm not going to go through a full teach here. I will be releasing a full how to play video that gets very in depth, especially on the rules of route placement, which I don't think the rule book or any other videos I've found have truly done justice to that rule set. But coming back to this, the next person to place would get 1 less. And if I happen to place on C as well, I would get 1 less than that. So they would actually activate in reverse order when we got to the action phase of the round. So starting with me, I would place 1. Purple would place 2. And then I would place 3. The cylinders used are discarded from the game. You can return them to your colored bags. And this is what makes Bus very unique in terms of an action selection game, which is your actions are limited to exactly 20. So you will get exactly 20 turns in this game unless the game ends before you get your 20. You never regain action cylinders, so you will never get more than 20 for any reason. And each round, each player has to play a minimum of 2 action cylinders, meaning you're going to take at least 2 actions this round, but it's up to you how many you want to take. So if everyone else only takes 2, I can take as many as I want to try to jump in the lead if I see some potential on the board. But getting too aggressive could mean towards the end of the game, I run out of steam, i.e. action cylinders, while everyone else gets to keep playing and my lead starts to diminish. The idea of a finite number of actions is so brilliant, and I'm genuinely surprised we don't see it more in modern board gaming, because it just creates this very satisfying push and pull where each round you're weighing, do I want to really go for it? Do I want to put just a little extra oomph in there? And what happens is every action matters. And sometimes you spin that extra cylinder, and by the time it gets to that action, you don't get to do anything and it was wasted. And that stings. It really hurts. For example, maybe I played a room really late on in the round, and by the time it gets to me, the meeple have already been displaced, and I'm kind of out of luck. Let me show you what that would look like. So in this case, purple is actually ahead of me in turn order during the vroom action. So let's look at the board and break this down. Purple has 3 buses in their fleet, which means they can deliver up to 3 passengers per vroom action. And there are 3 passengers on purple's route. They all happen to share yellow's route in this case, so both yellow and purple have access to these passengers. Yellow will of course only be able to deliver 2 as their fleet is at 2. But at the end of the clock phase, say it just switched to home, so that's where the passengers want to go this round, any passengers already standing on the corner of their house don't need a bus to pick them up, so they deliver themselves. Now we only have 2 passengers on the board. When we get to purple, purple will deliver 1 passenger there, and they will pick up this passenger and take them all the way over here and deliver them. So now when it gets to me, the yellow player, there's no more passengers to pick up. So that is a wasted cylinder. It will still discard like any other spent action cylinder, but I will score no points, while purple scored 2 this round. And that's really one interesting thing about the route building in this game, because it serves 2 purposes. It's both offensive, as you're trying to build the best route possible to reach all these different preferred locations and available passengers, while also playing some defense to cut your opponents off so that they can't quite get access to what you want to really save for yourself. I want to say with a teach, most of my games are an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours at most, and that's not very common, which is one reason I get this one tabled so much, is because it is a great introduction to German Euros and Splotter games, And, with only an hour, hour and a half commitment, even if you don't like it, we can jump to something else pretty quickly. And unlike a lot of other Splotter games, you're not going to lose with your very first choice as you decide where your first route's going down. In fact, one thing that makes Bust very special compared to a lot of Splotter games where your early decisions can really cripple you, Bus is very much friendly to the newer players who are learning as they're playing. How it does that is the locations, which are work, the pub, and home, of course, the only three places people go in the world, can only be placed on the lowest available numerical positions, which means so long as there are ones still exposed, you have to place on a one. Once all of the ones are covered, then you can place on twos. Once twos are covered, threes, etc. So it causes the board to grow outwards as you're playing. So the early decisions are going to get really congested and a little more useless later on in the game. So as you're learning, you can be more strategic. The only thing I would say for newer players is early in the game, build close to the ones, build close to a depot, at least one of them, and kind of stick in that center zone and then start working outwards. So line expansion will allow you to build more routes on the board. Buses will allow you to increase your fleet of buses, in turn, how many passengers you can pick up for each room action. Passengers will add new passengers to one or both of the depot stations. You can put them both in one area or split them up, whichever is more advantageous to your strategy. Buildings, which will allow you to place the new buildings. As we discussed, you have to start with the ones and work outward. You can choose whichever one of the three locations you want. The clock, as the rule book calls it, which on the board only has the word caution, which is quite appropriate. When you have a cylinder on this spot and it comes time to execute, you decide whether or not you want to stop time. What that means is, whereas normally during this phase, the clock would jump to the next location. So during the following room action, passengers are going to want to go to work versus home if it was previously at home. But if I stopped time, it will not move, meaning any passengers that were already at home, we can't pick up and deliver because they're already there. They're just going to take themselves home, which can throw a huge kink in someone's strategy who played heavily into Vroom this round, expecting to score a bunch of points. Because Vroom is how you score points. Do not sleep on the Vroom action in the game, or you will not score points and you will not win. Now, more importantly, when you do decide to mess with the time continuum, you have to take a time stone. These time stones are worth -1 point at the end of the game. However, they are tiebreakers at the end of the game. So, little pro, little con, more con, but I thought that was a nice touch to having to take such a negative effect. Now, if you should ever remove the last time stone setting on the clock, you actually fracture space time and the game immediately ends there. The Vroom action does not occur. So this is an interesting action to take, because if you do take that last time stone, that's a negative point to you. However, anyone in that Vroom action, they're not getting to score any more points. The board state is what it is. You're going to deduct the negative points and see who won. And sometimes that is really in your favor. Losing 1 point may be better than your opponent scoring 4 or 5 points in one round. The game's usually won around 10 to 12 points. I think I've seen someone maybe hit 16 at most. Now, I also want to point out that there are still plenty of Easter eggs on this board too, such as Avalon Hill Overpass, Cairns Boulevard, Longest Road. What else we got here? Oh, there's Longest Road actually goes all the way down there. That's clever. Never noticed that before. Food Chain Alley, Boats Road, which play on roads and boats. Most of the little Easter eggs are Splotter related, but not all of them, which is a fun little callback from the original board. So one of the reasons I love this game so much is it's not as aggressive as a lot of other German style Euros that are very take that in your face, while being very easy to teach and fairly beginner friendly, short play time, but it does share in common with German Euros that incredible depth of strategy, easy to learn, impossible to master. Every game you play, you will walk away thinking, if I would have just done that, I could have improved my strategy. And that lends to just a desire to continue to play the game. And with only a few mechanics to play with a pretty sprawling board, you really can do so many different things. And though it does have that depth of strategy, don't think this is something that's going to turn into a brain burn or analysis paralysis, because compared to a game, say like chess, where you can think 15 turns ahead, most people not really, but you really can't think too many turns ahead. One, maybe two. I don't really even know how you'd pull off two. It's certainly possible, but the board state changes so much, and the various positioned action cylinders by each player every round causes a situation where there's no way you can predict everything that's going to happen once these action cylinders start executing. Even chess would be nearly impossible to really figure out if you had 3 to 5 players. This really is one of those games where you really feel like you got to hang out with your friends and discuss it while you're playing it. You know, a lot of games that cause table talk, it's usually table talk unrelated to the game. Like if I'm playing Wingspan, there's so much time between turns, I'm probably not talking about my turn and actions. A, I don't want them to know what I'm doing. B, there's not enough depth there to really engage a meaningful discussion about what I may do anyway. Whereas here, the table talk does typically revolve around, oh my God, if green does X, Y, Z, or okay, you guys are going to think I'm crazy, but which to me makes for the most fun board games. Now, as this is an out of print Grail game, it's pretty tricky to get your hands on. I mean, I hate to even word it that way, because it's like, it's easier to get your hands on this than anything on Kickstarter, because anything actively on Kickstarter is not available to the public, and you can pretty much at any time go on eBay or Board Game Geek and find a copy of Bus. Now, the original 1999 copy is of course going to run you back a pretty penny, because it's been out of print for going on 2 decades now, whereas the 2 different editions of Capstone currently available are the deluxe 20th anniversary and the retail copy. No difference at all between the 2 in terms of enjoying the game. And I mean, you can usually find the retail copy for $150, $200 on the secondhand market. If you get lucky, maybe even less than that. However, Capstone has announced a reprint of their version of Bus coming to crowdfunding, I assume around November, but the exact date has not been announced yet. And I'm not certain if the reprint is going to include both the deluxe version and the retail, or simply just the retail. At first I was convinced, oh, well, they will just do retail because the deluxe version was a 20th anniversary special edition. But with so many other special edition games seeing reprint, like the New Castles of Burgundy and Thunder Road Maximum Chrome, I'm starting to lean towards they probably will reprint the deluxe version. It won't be called the 20th anniversary special edition, but timeline-wise, it would land exactly on the 25th anniversary of Bus, so they may take that route. So yeah, I think it's pretty likely we're going to see the deluxe version in this new print run. I appreciate everyone watching. I will be dropping the how to play video shortly after this one. Please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss it. Please like and comment. That really goes a long way for us smaller YouTubers. And for those interested in the results of the Bus giveaway, I will now run the screen record from that. Because this platform I'm using will only allow me to enter like 5 videos at once, I didn't want to leave anyone out. I wanted to keep basically the rules as I set them. I will run a wheel for each video individually. I'll pull the winner of each, and then I will throw all 8 of those winners into a final wheel. We'll spin that, and then the winner will be determined. Okay, so I think we're ready to get started. So let's run wheel number 1. So this wheel number 1, we have 117 entries. This is for, which video is number 1? I don't remember. The wheels are in order of the release dates. You guys get it. So 117, let's see who takes this one. All right, so here's our person for the first. I guess if I just click it. Okay, so it's this person. So I'll subscribe to them so I don't forget. All right, so there's our first entry from the first wheel, and I'll keep everybody up. All right, wheel number 2 for the second video, second slot in the main wheel. All right, we got a winner, Captain America 16. I'll go ahead and subscribe to him. Please do not change your usernames if you win this. Wheel number 3. User KMC, a long ass name. You guys see it. Let's subscribe there. I think I've seen this person comment. All right, wheel number 4. Travis Thomas. Subscribe to that person. All right. Wheel number 5. Michael Joseph. Subscribe there. Okay. Wheel number 6. There's a lot of entries on this one. 233. All right. Exotic, if I'm pronouncing that right. Subscribe there. All right, wheel number 7. We got 132 in this one. Sagrid. Oh, didn't he win one of the giveaways in the Discord? I think he did. I don't remember which one, but I think he actually won one of our giveaways in the Discord. All right, and the final wheel for the video, this is video 8, so this would have been the Monopoly one. Only 20 entries. Bro, that Monopoly video flopped. It's all good. I mean, I feel like I improved my editing abilities, so we take what we get. All right, let's subscribe there. So that's all 8 of our people into the main wheel. So in the main wheel, is this still showing up pretty good? Yeah, everybody can see that pretty good. We've got DJ Fox 1764, Captain America 16, User KM 6KN 5PM1T, Travis Thomas 4397, Michael Joseph 8687, Exotic, Sagritel, yeah, that's right. Joshua Rhonda 2174. Good luck to these 8 people. One of you will take bus home. Let's find out who it is. Sagritel, that's hilarious. Oh my god, what are the chances? Someone in the Discord took the win. Let's go. Oh man, that's awesome. That's awesome. You love to see it. See, that's why it pays to be in the Discord. Well, actually, that made no difference, but maybe it brought him the good luck he needed. So, Sagritel, congrats. That's so awesome. So cool to see someone in the Discord take this win. Hit me up in my DMs and we'll get this sent to you. All right. Appreciate everyone tuning in, and we'll figure out what we're doing next.